Kody Brown is finally apologizing to his ex-wives. After years of anger, abandonment, and choosing one wife over all the others, he's suddenly sorry. But here's the thing that nobody's talking about. This isn't about making his ex-wives feel better. This is damage control. This is a man who watched his reputation crumble on national television and realized he needed to rehabilitate his image. So he launched what can only be described as the most transparent apology tour in reality TV history. And the first stop? Janelle Brown, the wife he systematically alienated for years. What happened in that conversation reveals everything you need to know about whether Kody's remorse is real or just another performance. Stick around because this breakdown is going to expose the manipulation tactics hiding behind every single word of Kody's so-called apology. The Brown family empire has collapsed. After over a decade of sister wives showcasing what was supposed to be a successful plural marriage, Kody Brown now sits alone with only his fourth wife, Robyn. Christine left and remarried. Mary officially ended their spiritual marriage. And Janelle, after 29 years with Kody, walked away from a relationship that had become toxic, one-sided, and emotionally destructive. For months, viewers watched Kody rage against his departing wives on camera. He called them quitters. He said they broke their commitments. He positioned himself as the victim, the faithful husband abandoned by women who couldn't handle the challenges of plural marriage. His anger was palpable, constant, and entirely focused on blaming everyone but himself. But something has shifted. In the newest episodes of Sister Wives Season 20, Kody has launched what can only be described as an apology tour. Suddenly, the man who spent months spewing bitterness is offering regrets. The husband who showed nothing but contempt is expressing remorse. The father who abandoned his children is claiming he wants to make things right. And the first person he's chosen to apologize to is Janelle. Why Janelle first? Is it because she was the wife he hurt most deeply? Or is it because she's the one he thinks might be most receptive to his manipulation? What unfolds in their conversation is a masterclass in how to apologize without actually taking responsibility. How to express regret without committing to real change. How to perform remorse while still centering yourself as the victim. Because here's what nobody seems to be saying out loud. Kody's apology tour isn't about healing. It's about image rehabilitation. And once you understand that, every word he says takes on a completely different meaning. To understand why Kody's apology to Janelle rings hollow, you need to understand the years of systematic neglect that preceded it. This wasn't a relationship that ended because of one big conflict. This was death by 1,000 cuts, each one inflicted by Kody's consistent choice to prioritize Robyn over everyone else. Janelle married Kody in January 1993, becoming his second wife. For nearly 3 decades, she was part of the Brown family structure. She gave Kody 6 children: Logan, Madison, Hunter, Garrison, Gabriel, and Savannah. She worked to financially support the family while other wives stayed home. She was loyal, steady, and committed to making plural marriage work. But from the moment Robyn entered the family in 2010, the dynamic shifted dramatically. Kody, who had supposedly mastered the art of dividing his time equally among multiple wives, suddenly couldn't seem to spend time anywhere except Robyn's house. His rotation became less of a schedule and more of a suggestion, with Robyn's needs always taking priority. During the COVID-19 pandemic, this favoritism reached its peak. Kody implemented strict rules that his other wives and their children had to follow if they wanted to see him. Meanwhile, he lived full-time at Robyn's house with her children, following none of the restrictions he demanded of everyone else. The hypocrisy was staggering. When Janelle's sons questioned the double standard, Kody responded with anger rather than understanding. And this is where the pattern becomes crystal clear. Every time Janelle chose her children over Kody's demands, he punished her for it. When her sons remained at home past 18 because they were still figuring out their lives, Kody complained that they were freeloaders. When Janelle spent holidays with her adult children instead of at Robyn's house, Kody accused her of not prioritizing their marriage. When Janelle defended her sons against Kody's criticism, he claimed she was undermining him as a father. Kody created an impossible situation for Janelle. She could either abandon her children to satisfy his ego, or she could be a good mother and face his wrath. There was no scenario where she could win. And when she consistently chose her children, Kody used it as evidence that she didn't care about their relationship. Janelle herself said it plainly, "I will always choose my kids." That statement wasn't a rejection of Kody. It was a declaration that she wouldn't sacrifice her children's well-being for a husband who had already checked out of their relationship. And the moment she said it, everyone knew the marriage was over. Because Kody had already made his choice years earlier. He'd chosen Robyn. He'd chosen comfort over commitment. He'd chosen the wife who didn't challenge him over the wives who expected him to show up. For years, Janelle watched Kody build a life that didn't include her. She watched him attend Robyn's children's events while missing her own kids' milestones. She watched him invest time, energy, and resources into Robyn's household while treating hers like an afterthought. She watched the father of her children become a stranger who seemed to actively resent her family. And through all of it, Kody showed no remorse, no apologies, no acknowledgement that his behavior was destroying his relationships with Janelle and her children, just anger that they weren't conforming to his expectations. Until now. Now suddenly he's sorry. The question is, sorry for what he did or sorry that everyone noticed? In the newest sneak peek from Sister Wives, viewers finally see Kody and Janelle sit down for what's supposed to be a reconciliatory conversation. The setup implies this is Kody's moment to take accountability, to acknowledge the pain he caused, to offer genuine remorse for years of neglect and favoritism. So how does Kody begin this crucial conversation? By apologizing for being angry. He tells Janelle that he was bitter over the family breakup. That's his opening move. Not an apology for the years of systematic neglect. Not remorse for choosing Robyn over everyone else. Not acknowledgement of abandoning Janelle's children. Just regret that he was angry about the consequences of his own actions. Let's break down what this actually means. Kody is apologizing for his emotional reaction to losing his family, not for the behaviors that caused him to lose his family in the first place. He's centering his own feelings of bitterness rather than acknowledging Janelle's years of pain. This is classic non-apology territory. It sounds like accountability, but it's actually just explaining away his behavior while still positioning himself as the injured party. And there's something else embedded in this apology that's even more insidious. By framing his anger as a natural response to bitterness over the family breakup, Kody is still implying that the breakup happened to him rather than because of him. He's still treating himself as the victim of circumstances beyond his control, rather than the architect of his own family's destruction. Janelle's response is telling. She doesn't accept his apology at face value. Instead, she tells him there was a point where she didn't know who he was anymore. She says he wasn't the person she married. This is a devastating observation, and it highlights just how dramatically Kody changed over the years. The man Janelle committed to in 1993 was unrecognizable in the man who raged at her during COVID and blamed her for choosing her children. Janelle also admits something important. She never saw the breakup coming. Even after years of deterioration, even after watching Kody prioritize Robyn consistently, Janelle didn't think it would actually end. This speaks to either incredible optimism or deep denial on her part. But it also reveals how thoroughly Kody's behavior had eroded their foundation without her fully recognizing the extent of the damage until it was irreparable. And then, Janelle does something that many viewers will find frustrating. She takes partial responsibility. She tells Kody that she believes she was more focused on the family and less on her relationship with him. She's internalizing blame for the marriage's failure. Let's be absolutely clear about something. Janelle doesn't need to beat herself up about this. Yes, she focused on her family, but her family included 6 children with Kody. Focusing on those children was her job as a mother, and the reason she had to focus so intensely on them was because Kody had checked out as their father. Here's the dynamic that Janelle is describing. She was trying to be both mother and father to her children because Kody wasn't showing up. She was compensating for his absence by being doubly present. And Kody interpreted her intense focus on the kids as neglect of their relationship, when in reality, her focus on the kids was a direct result of his neglect of the entire family. This is a manipulation tactic whether Kody realizes it or not. By complaining that Janelle was too focused on the children, he made her feel guilty for being a good mother. He framed her parenting as a failure of wifely duty. And even now, in this supposed reconciliation conversation, Janelle is still carrying that guilt. Meanwhile, where was Kody's focus? Not on the wives, not on the family as a whole. His focus was on Robyn, her house, her children, her needs, her emotions. Everything revolved around keeping Robyn happy and comfortable. While Janelle was stretching herself thin, trying to parent 6 kids largely on her own, Kody was playing house with Robyn and acting like a hands-on father to her children. The asymmetry is staggering, and the fact that Janelle is still taking responsibility for not prioritizing their relationship shows just how effective Kody's manipulation has been over the years. There's a pattern in Kody's relationships with his wives that becomes clearer with every passing season. He forces them to choose between him and their children. And then, when they choose their children, he uses that choice as evidence that they never really loved him. Janelle said it explicitly. "I will always choose my kids." This wasn't a threat or an ultimatum. It was a statement of her values and priorities. She was telling Kody that if he forced her to choose between being a good mother and being a compliant wife, she would choose her children every single time. And that statement essentially ended their marriage. Because Kody heard it as rejection rather than as a boundary. He couldn't understand that a good husband would never make his wife choose in the first place. Let's look at the specific instances where Kody forced this choice. During COVID, he demanded that Janelle's adult sons follow strict protocols if they wanted to be part of family gatherings. When the boys questioned the fairness of rules that didn't apply to Robyn's household, Kody exploded. He expected Janelle to choose enforcing his rules over maintaining relationships with her sons. She refused, and he punished her for it by withdrawing even further from their family. When Janelle's sons remained living at home past 18, Kody openly complained that they should be independent. Never mind that they were still figuring out their education and careers. Never mind that multi-generational households are normal and healthy in many families. Kody wanted them gone, and he expected Janelle to push them out to prove her loyalty to him. She refused, and he used it as evidence that she enabled her children and didn't respect him as the patriarch. When Janelle chose to spend holidays with her adult children instead of at Robyn's house for yet another Brown family Christmas centered around Robyn's preferences, Kody accused her of abandoning the family. The irony of him accusing her of family abandonment while he was living full-time with only one of 4 wives apparently escaped him. He expected Janelle to show up and perform happy plural family while he gave her scraps of his time and attention. When Janelle defended her sons against Kody's criticism and anger, he claimed she was undermining his authority as a father. But here's the thing, Kody had already undermined his own authority by being absent. You can't be an absent father and then show up occasionally to criticize and expect to be respected. Janelle was protecting her sons from a father who only engaged with them through anger and disappointment. In every single one of these scenarios, a good husband would have never created the conflict in the first place. A good husband would have worked with Janelle to navigate COVID restrictions that applied fairly to all households. A good husband would have supported young adult children finding their footing rather than viewing them as burdens. A good husband would have made time for holidays with all his children, not just Robyn's. A good husband would have been present enough as a father that his wife didn't need to choose between defending her children and supporting him. But Kody wasn't a good husband to Janelle. He was a part-time husband who expected full-time deference. He was an absent father who demanded unquestioning respect. He was a man who had emotionally divorced from Janelle years before she officially left, but still expected her to behave as if they had a real marriage. And when she finally stopped playing that game, when she finally said out loud that she would always choose her children over his demands, Kody used it as proof that she was the problem, not him. Not his absence, not his favoritism. Her refusal to sacrifice her children for his ego became the reason the marriage failed in his narrative. This is gaslighting at its finest. Creating an impossible situation, punishing someone for making the only reasonable choice, and then blaming them for the outcome. So when Kody apologizes to Janelle for being bitter and angry, what is he actually apologizing for? On the surface, he's expressing regret for his emotional state following the family breakup. But let's dig deeper into what's really happening here. Kody watched his reputation implode on national television. For months, viewers witnessed him rage at his wives, abandon his children, and prioritize Robyn over everyone else. Social media erupted with criticism. Former fans turned against him. Even his own adult children spoke publicly about his failures as a father. The court of public opinion delivered a unanimous verdict. Kody Brown is the villain of his own story. And Kody doesn't like being the villain. Throughout Sister Wives, he's positioned himself as a misunderstood patriarch, trying to hold a plural family together. He wants to be seen as a good man making difficult choices, not a narcissist who destroyed his family through selfishness and favoritism. So this apology tour isn't about making his ex-wives feel better. It's about rehabilitating his image. It's damage control disguised as accountability. By apologizing for his anger, Kody gets to look like he's taking responsibility without actually addressing any of the substantive harm he caused. He gets to appear remorseful without committing to genuine change. Notice what Kody doesn't apologize for in this conversation with Janelle? He doesn't apologize for systematically neglecting her and her children for years. He doesn't apologize for choosing Robyn over her at every turn. He doesn't apologize for creating impossible situations where she had to choose between him and her kids. He doesn't apologize for being an absent father who showed up only to criticize. He doesn't apologize for the specific, concrete behaviors that destroyed their relationship and his relationship with her children. He apologizes for being bitter. That's it. He's sorry he was angry about losing his family, but he's not actually taking responsibility for why he lost his family in the first place. This is strategic. By offering a vague apology for his emotional state, Kody gets credit for being remorseful without having to enumerate his actual failures. If he listed the specific things he did wrong, he'd be creating a permanent record of his failings. But by keeping it general and focused on his feelings, he maintains plausible deniability about the extent of his responsibility. And here's the really insidious part. Now that Kody has apologized, he'll expect his ex-wives and his children to forgive him and move on. When they don't immediately reconcile with him, he'll position himself as the victim again. He'll say he tried to make amends. He apologized. What more do they want from him? He'll use this apology as evidence that he's done his part, and their continued distance will become proof in his mind that they're the ones holding grudges. This is manipulation 101. Offer the minimum apology necessary to appear contrite, then use the other person's reasonable continued boundaries as evidence that they're unforgiving and unreasonable. Kody isn't sorry about what he did. He's sorry about the consequences he's facing. Janelle is in an impossible position during this conversation. On one hand, she's hearing an apology from the man she was married to for 29 years. There's probably a part of her that wants to believe he's genuine, that wants to think he's finally seeing what he did wrong and wants to make it right. But on the other hand, she's lived through years of Kody's manipulation. She knows his patterns. She's seen how he centers himself in every conflict. She's experienced firsthand how he apologizes for surface-level things while never addressing the deeper issues. So even as she sits across from him hearing this apology, she has to be wondering if anything has actually changed. Her response is measured. She tells him there was a point where she didn't recognize who he'd become. This is her way of saying, "You transformed into someone I couldn't stay married to. The man I married wouldn't have abandoned his children, wouldn't have shown such blatant favoritism, wouldn't have punished me for being a good mother." She's also telling him that his apology for being bitter doesn't address the fundamental problem. The problem wasn't his anger after the breakup. The problem was the years of behavior that led to the breakup in the first place. And unless he's willing to acknowledge and take responsibility for that, his apology is meaningless. When Janelle admits she never saw the breakup coming, she's revealing just how much she tried to make the marriage work despite everything. She hung on longer than most people would have. She gave him chance after chance to show up for her and their children. She believed in the plural family ideal even as Kody was actively destroying it through his favoritism toward Robyn. And even now, sitting across from him in this conversation, Janelle is still trying to be fair. She takes partial responsibility for focusing too much on the family and not enough on their relationship. She's giving him an out, a way to see this as a mutual failure rather than his unilateral destruction of their marriage. But here's what Janelle needs to understand and what viewers need to recognize. This wasn't a mutual failure. Janelle focused on their children because Kody abandoned them. She poured energy into their family because he'd redirected all his energy toward Robyn's family. She filled the gaps he created through his absence. A relationship can't work when one person checks out. And Kody checked out of his marriage with Janelle years before their official separation. He was physically present occasionally, but emotionally, financially, and practically invested in Robyn's household instead. Janelle was trying to maintain a marriage that Kody had already left, and she's still somehow taking responsibility for its failure. This is the legacy of Kody's manipulation. Even after leaving him, even after recognizing that the relationship was toxic, Janelle is still internalizing blame that doesn't belong to her. Still questioning whether she could have done more, tried harder, sacrificed more, when the truth is she sacrificed plenty, and it still wasn't enough because Kody was never actually present to receive it. While Kody is busy apologizing to Janelle for being bitter, there's a group of people who deserve his apologies far more. The children he systematically abandoned and criticized. Logan, Madison, Hunter, Garrison, Gabriel, and Savannah all watched their father transform from someone present in their lives to someone who only showed up to complain and criticize. Kody made Janelle feel wrong for allowing her sons to remain living at home past 18. But those sons were Hunter, Garrison, and Gabriel, young men trying to figure out their education and careers. In most functional families, parents support their young adult children through this transition period. But Kody viewed their continued presence as evidence that Janelle was enabling them to be lazy. He wanted them gone, and he resented that Janelle prioritized their needs over his comfort. During COVID, Kody's relationship with Janelle's sons deteriorated completely. When they questioned the fairness of his protocols, he responded with anger rather than explanation. When they expressed hurt over his absence, he blamed them for not following his rules. When they watched him live full-time at Robyn's house while claiming it was too dangerous to visit anyone else, they recognized the hypocrisy and called it out. And Kody's response? He stopped seeing them entirely. He used their questioning of his authority as justification to withdraw even further. He punished young men for having reasonable concerns about unequal treatment. And when Janelle defended her sons, Kody accused her of undermining him as a father. But here's the truth Kody refuses to acknowledge. You can't be an absent father and then show up occasionally to lay down the law and expect respect. Respect has to be earned through consistent presence, care, and engagement. Kody abandoned that responsibility long before his sons questioned his authority. He just didn't like being confronted with the consequences of his own absence. Now, two of Janelle's sons, Garrison and Gabriel, have been particularly vocal about their father's failures. They've spoken publicly about feeling abandoned, about watching their father prioritize Robyn's children over them, about recognizing that Kody was building a life that didn't include them. These aren't children being manipulated by a bitter mother. These are adult men speaking their truth about a father who systematically checked out of their lives. And where is Kody's apology to them? He's busy apologizing to Janelle for being bitter about the family breakup. But his sons don't need his apology for his emotional state. They need his apology for his actions, for missing their milestones, for showing up to Robyn's kids' events while skipping theirs, for treating them like burdens rather than beloved sons, for choosing to be a present father to Robyn's children while being an absent father to them. Those are the apologies Kody should be making, but they're not the apologies he's offering, because offering those apologies would require him to actually enumerate his specific failures as a father. It would require him to acknowledge that his favoritism toward Robyn's family destroyed his relationships with his other children. It would require genuine accountability rather than performative remorse. So instead, he apologizes to Janelle for being angry, and his sons continue to live with the pain of a father who chose another family over them. While Kody performs his apology tour for the cameras, his children are living with the real-world consequences of his abandonment. This is the question that matters most. Is Kody Brown genuinely remorseful for his behavior? Or is this apology tour just another performance designed to rehabilitate his image? The evidence suggests it's overwhelmingly the latter. Genuine remorse requires several key components. First, acknowledgement of specific harm caused. Kody hasn't done this. His apology to Janelle is vague and focused on his emotional state rather than his concrete actions. He's sorry he was bitter, but he hasn't itemized the years of neglect, favoritism, and abandonment that destroyed their marriage. Second, genuine remorse requires taking full responsibility without deflection or justification. Kody hasn't done this either. Even in this apology conversation, he frames his anger as a natural response to bitterness over the family breakup. He's still treating the breakup as something that happened to him rather than something he caused. He's still positioning himself as a victim of circumstances rather than the architect of his family's destruction. Third, genuine remorse requires demonstrable change in behavior. There's no evidence of this whatsoever. Kody is still living exclusively with Robyn, still seemingly uninvolved with most of his children, still showing the same patterns of favoritism and self-centeredness that destroyed his relationships in the first place. Words of apology mean nothing if they're not backed up by changed actions, and Kody's actions remain unchanged. Fourth, genuine remorse requires empathy for the pain you've caused others. Kody's apology centers his own feelings of bitterness rather than Janelle's years of neglect and hurt. He's not demonstrating understanding of what his behavior cost her, not acknowledging the pain of watching him choose Robyn over her consistently, not recognizing the damage his absence caused their children. His focus remains on his own experience rather than the experiences of those he harmed. All of these factors point to the same conclusion. Kody's apology is performative rather than genuine. It's image management, not authentic accountability. He's recognized that public opinion has turned firmly against him, and he's attempting to soften that perception by appearing remorseful. But he's not actually willing to do the deep work of examining his behavior, taking full responsibility, and making meaningful changes. This is exactly what Janelle observed when she told Kody that the family breakup happened because everyone is pointing their fingers at you and didn't buy that "I never loved them" speech. Kody is angry that people are holding him accountable. He's angry that his narrative of being the victim isn't being accepted. And his apology tour is his attempt to regain control of that narrative by appearing contrite while still maintaining his victimhood. The real test of Kody's sincerity will come in the weeks and months ahead. If this apology is genuine, we should see him making sustained efforts to rebuild relationships with all his children, not just Robyn's. We should see him acknowledging specific failures and taking concrete steps to address them. We should see changed behavior, not just changed rhetoric. But if this is just performance, and all evidence suggests it is, we'll see Kody use these apologies as leverage. He'll point to them as proof he's done his part. And when his ex-wives and children don't immediately reconcile, he'll position himself as the victim once again, the man who tried to make amends but was rejected by an unforgiving family. Kody Brown's apology tour has begun, and the first stop with Janelle has revealed exactly what this tour is really about. It's not about healing. It's not about genuine accountability. It's not about making the people he's hurt feel better. It's about making himself look better. By apologizing for being bitter instead of apologizing for the specific behaviors that destroyed his family, Kody gets to appear remorseful without actually confronting his failures. By keeping his apology vague and centered on his emotional state, he avoids creating a concrete record of all the ways he failed as a husband and father. And by launching this tour publicly on the show, he gets credit for attempting reconciliation while never having to follow through with meaningful change. Janelle's response tells us everything we need to know about how effective this apology actually is. She didn't light up with hope. She didn't express relief that he's finally taking responsibility. Instead, she told him he'd become someone she didn't recognize, someone who wasn't the man she married. That's not the response of someone who feels their pain has been acknowledged and validated. That's the response of someone who recognizes that the apology doesn't match the magnitude of the harm. And while Kody performs this apology tour for the cameras, his children continue to live with the consequences of his choices. Janelle's sons still have a father who chose another family over them. They still have years of abandonment and favoritism to process. They still watch their father show up for Robyn's children while skipping their important moments. An apology to their mother for being bitter doesn't begin to address the pain Kody caused them directly. The question now is whether viewers will buy this performance. Will they accept Kody's vague expressions of regret as genuine accountability? Or will they recognize this for what it is? Damage control from a man who destroyed his family through selfishness and favoritism and is now trying to rehabilitate his reputation without actually changing his behavior? Based on social media reaction and viewer comments, it seems most people aren't fooled. They recognize that saying, "I'm sorry I was bitter," isn't the same as saying, "I'm sorry I systematically neglected you and your children for years while prioritizing another wife." They understand that performing remorse for the cameras isn't the same as doing the deep personal work necessary for genuine change. Kody's apology tour will likely continue with stops at Christine and Mary's houses as well. And viewers should watch carefully to see whether his apologies get more specific and substantive, or whether they follow the same pattern: vague regret for his emotional reactions, rather than concrete acknowledgement of his harmful actions. Because here's the truth that Kody seems unwilling to face. His family didn't collapse because he was angry and bitter after the breakup. His family collapsed because of years of choices he made long before anyone left. Years of choosing Robyn over everyone else. Years of being absent for some children while present for others. Years of making his wives compete for scraps of his time and attention. Years of forcing impossible choices between himself and their children. Years of building a life centered around one wife while claiming to value plural marriage. Those are the behaviors that destroyed the Brown family, and until Kody is willing to acknowledge them specifically and take full responsibility for them, his apology tour is nothing more than another performance in a long history of performances. Is Kody's apology genuine or just damage control? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want more Sister Wives analysis, like this video and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for updates as Kody's apology tour continues. Thanks for watching.